Hello everyone, great to have you on the channel here for this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. We're going to be looking at our winter storm outlook, seeing is this raging inferno firecracker ridge going to continue across the east for how long, and will we see that pattern flip mid to late February? And we'll be taking a look at all your weather for the tropics down here. Is this abnormally wet conditions going to continue? And I know some areas continue to dry out. Let's take a look at all the details. Let's get into it. So starting off with our HRRR future radar, as we continue through Thursday night into Friday morning, you can see these showers move into the east. Now, there is going to be some overrunning warm air. The colder air at the surface may get some freezing rain developing in some areas. It's not going to be a major ice storm, maybe less than 1/10 of an inch on average. It may affect your morning commute Friday morning, but it quickly changes over to rain. Now look what happens later in the day, 4 p.m. The New York State Thruway on northward, this is where you could see that snow piling up. And look at the convective line all the way down into parts of Georgia and the panhandle of Florida. So thunderstorms potential. Look at this as we stretch on into the 6th, 7th, and 8th p.m. time range here. Look at this. Northern New York, New Hampshire, Vermont, and even northwest Ohio over here towards Toledo, getting that heavy wet snow, ending as snow here in Cleveland by midnight. And then pulling to the east here, look at even Boston ending as snow as we stretch through early morning hours of Saturday. All right, so let's start off with the GFS here, and we'll transition over to the Euro. So let's slow things down here. There we go. So as we head on into your Friday, we're going to be looking at that storm moving to the northeast. So obviously we're picking up where our future radar left off. So here we go. We head on into, here's Friday. This is obviously a mostly rain event, except on the backside, it does start to change to some wet snow, and then more accumulating snows up here in northern New York, New Hampshire, Vermont, which I'll show you very readily here on the European run. This is a very open wave of a low pressure system, so there's not much accumulation. The next system pummels through, it moves into this big high pressure system, so it's going to be a little moisture starved, but it does kick off enough for at least a couple inches to potentially maybe as high as 2 to 5 here in some parts of northern New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, southern Maine as we stretch on into Sunday night and Monday. That system moves through. Look what's happening out here in the plains. We got a little bit of an overrunning scenario here through the 3rd and the 4th of February. As that, you can see the tropical moisture streaming to the north. We could have some mixed precipitation up here into parts of Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Indiana. That's going to quickly change to rain as we head through the 6th. This is going to be another area of low pressure that moves to the west, so it's going to erode this colder air to the east. Only the areas in northern New England will remain all frozen here. As we stretch through the 6th into the 7th, we might actually have some thunderstorms all the way up into Ohio, New York, Pennsylvania, and the central Appalachians here. So kind of crazy for early February, not unheard of. And then we get another area of low pressure, which really is showing up nicely on the European run. And it is a little bit here on the GFS as well. You get some heavy wet snow here in the nation's capital through Delmarva, parts of West Virginia, northern Virginia. That slides to the south. You might see some wet flakes here in Virginia Beach and the Outer Banks on the 8th here. So that pushes to the south and the east. And as we go longer term here, the west, that's where that big trough is. That big ridge kicks across the east with that big area of high pressure. Now we start to see a system diving south here the 11th into the 12th. This could be signaling the start of potentially a pattern change, although on the GFS, it holds on to this warmer flow longer. Look at this. This would show strong thunderstorms all the way up into parts of the southern Great Lakes and Midwest here. So there's 14th into the 15th. Yeah, the GFS still going with that raging inferno firecracker ridge longer. All right, so let me show you the European run here. As we go through time, it's pretty much lining up very close to the GFS here. Let's just get this going. There we go. So as we head through Friday here, later Friday, you can see these showers moving through the Ohio Valley into the northeast and mid-Atlantic. It's a very warm air mass. We'll have some thunderstorms on the southern end of this as well. There's that northern strip of snowfall on the northern side. So from northern New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and southern Maine, that's where we could see the snowfall accumulations. We'll get over those momentarily here, but you can see there's very little chance of secondary secondary low development here. That's a strong line of convection moving off the coast there. Now look at as we head through Sunday and Monday. The only thing in town we have up here is a little clipper moving through, with an associated warm front, a strong area of low pressure across southern Manitoba and Ontario here. Now look at next week. No very large scale areas of systems until about Thursday the 6th. We do start to get this overrunning front here. It's a warm front. So look at this convective nature of these showers and thunderstorms. Northern Ohio, southern Michigan, western New York, western Pennsylvania. This is around the 6th into the 7th. Let's just back that up. There it is. Heading on into the 6th into the 7th. Showers and thunderstorms across Ohio, New York, and Pennsylvania. That drops to the south. We start to get secondary low development here. And look what's happening on the northern edge of this. Southern Ohio, central Pennsylvania, up through New England. Looks like a potential snowstorm. It is an open, very elongated area of low pressure, so it's not going to strengthen into a mega low, it looks like. But we've got that cold high to the north, and that's something we'll have to watch because here's the 11th. We do get a big, sharp cold front. This will be the start of a potential pattern flip where we start to see colder and more trophy conditions across the east. All right, so let's take a look at our snowfall amounts here. First, taking our European run. So here the European has been going lower with our snow totals later Friday, Saturday storm. Then you can see we get another clipper Sunday night into early Monday. This is the one that could drop more snow across northern New York, New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine. So we're going to zoom in on this momentarily, but we go all the way through the 5th here. And this version of the European model that takes us out, essentially, you can see this rain-snow line staying way to the north here through this big ridging period. Now, let's go out a little bit further with our 12Z Euro. Yeah, this is what I wanted to show you here. So there's the weekend system up there. There's two systems there. There's the first one, and the second one looks a little more impressive now with 2 to 4 inches plus, maybe locally higher to 6 inches. Then we see another storm system next week, northern New England, northern New York, and look at this blip towards the 9th. That's a system we'll have to keep a very close watch on because that could target parts of the mid-Atlantic and the northeast, southeastern New England here. And we start to fill this in southward towards the middle of February. So let's take a look at our GFS run here with the snow. There it is. An initial shot of about 2, 3, 4, 5 inches here. So the GFS still higher on this first system than the Euro. It's less than it was on the previous run. Then we get another storm system later Sunday night and Monday, and that's going to add on top this. So New Hampshire, Vermont, northern New York might be the big winners here. These two systems might net you close to 6, 7, 8 inches total out of the entire snow event. So look at there. As we head later next week, it's not until the middle of the month the GFS does start to fill some of this in. And look at Southeast Canada up there. So here we go, zooming in on the GFS. There is our system. That is later Friday night into Saturday morning. Averaging out 2 to 4, maybe 5 inches here. Now look at this next one. This just adds on top of it. So the entire storm event between the two storms could net you from the New York State Thruway here, 6 to 8 inches, all the way into New Hampshire, even northern Massachusetts, 6 to 8 inches total out of both systems here. Yeah, and you get lake enhanced behind it. But you can see this rain snow line's pretty far to the north until about the middle of February here. Now let's flip over to the European run. Here it is. This first storm, Friday night and Saturday morning, is less impressive here to the north, about 1 to 2 inches on average. And then we add more on top that as we head Sunday night into Monday, looking like another 2 to 3, 4, maybe 5 inches here. And then we stretch further here and we start to see that lake enhance behind it. Now, if we switch to the longer range European run here, take a look at this. Yeah, there's that storm I wanted to show you come the 8th, 9th. There it is, the 8th and the 9th. This could be pretty interesting here. And here we are on the HRRR Future Radar, our latest run showing a band of, you might actually get up to a slushy inch here in Cleveland. Not sure I'm buying that completely, but look at here, especially across northern New York, all the way through New Hampshire there in Vermont. We could see, 2 to 4 inches in this band. Now, if we take a look at liquid equivalent precipitation here on our European model through this weekend, look at this, the mid-Mississippi River Valley to the Gulf Coast, all the way up here. This is mostly all going to be rain. You can see anywhere from 1/4 to 1/2 an inch likely across the Ohio Valley, or averaging out about 1/2 an inch. And then look it down in through parts of the Appalachians, Kentucky, down in through Louisiana here. That's where we'll see, the 3/4 to 1 1/2 inches locally higher amounts. And look at Northern California out here. That's going to drop all the way to Southern California by around the first week of February. And look at this. The storm track just continues pretty much in the same locations here. If we take a look at the GFS rainfall amounts, this is mostly rain. There it is, pretty much agreeing with our European run. And as we continue through the 7th into the 8th, look at that. We're really adding a lot of liquid equivalent here, especially across the east and out west as well. And don't forget, before I continue with more weather coverage here, don't forget, if you like this video and you've made it this far, smash that like button, everyone. It really does help. Question or comment down below. I'd love to read your questions or comments, and I love responding to them. And don't forget, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe bell notification button so you're alerted with all my future weather video updates. So let's continue. And let's take a look at our upper air pattern here. This is what I wanted to show you, at least through the first week of February. We got this raging inferno firecracker ridge, as I call it here. The west is going to be getting pummeled with storm system after storm system. Now, here around the 9th and the 10th, we start to see that troughiness kick in across the east. This is a little bit different than when I saw the last couple models. Ridge does try to build in by the 14th, but look what's forming. All I have to do is see that, and I know eventually this trough is really going to start to solidify mid to late February. And kicking it over to the GFS here. There we go. Let's get our latest run. You can see that firecracker ridge all the way through the 6th, the 7th. GFS does start to break it down around the 9th and the 10th across the east. And then another firecracker ridge towards the 13th and the 14th. But there it is, just like on the European, just a little further west, it is showing up here, this big omega high pressure system. And looking at our NAO index, yeah, it is pretty well positive. We're actually going to go close to +2 here. That's kind of crazy here as we head into the 1st and 2nd week of February. Then it starts to decrease. So that's that pattern change later on in February that I was talking about. And if we look at our MJO index, this is looking pretty interesting. So here we are. We're in our phase 4, so to speak, and we're on to 5 and eventually 6. Now, as we get later on into February, it looks like we're kind of meandering at this point, slowly towards 7. So once we start to get closer to 7 and 8, things are going to start to get interesting again in the east as we get later February into early March. All right, so let's take a look at the tropics here across the Caribbean, Southern Gulf, Western Atlantic here. So as we continue in time, yeah, it starts off pretty quiet here for the most part. You can see through the 1st into the 2nd of February, we have a few showers moving through parts of the Lesser Antilles. Look at how dry it is up here in Florida and the northern Bahamas. Now, as we continue through the 4th, the 5th, into the 6th, we do start to see evidence that there's a little bit more moisture here across Central America. So Belize down to Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and Panama will start to see an increase of showers as we get this area of low pressure moving off the coast of Colombia here. Even some showers up here through parts of Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, and the Northern Virgin Islands here in Lesser Antilles. Now, as we go through the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, look at Jamaica. I know some of you said in southern and western Jamaica, it's been really dry. Northeastern Jamaica, you're especially near Portland Parish, that's where you're continuing to get that rain off that east and northeasterly flow there. So as we head through the 9th into the 10th, there is a front. Can we get this front to move south? Well, let's take a look here on our GFS run. You can see it kind of gets hung up here just north of Haiti, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico. You do get some showers out of this, though, come the 13th into the 14th. So there is going to be wetter times ahead here into the northeastern Caribbean, but it's still looking a little drier here into the western Caribbean as we stretch through mid-February. Until we get to the 15th, we do start to see an area of moisture surging from South America here. Now, look at this feature. Is this really strange or what? I'm going to back this up to the 13th. This actually looks like it could be something subtropical trying to form. How crazy is that? And thanks to Tropical Tidbits for our European run of the Caribbean and Western Atlantic here. So as we continue through this weekend into next week, there you can see those heavy showers moving across Belize, parts of northern Honduras. That's just going to continue as we head into early Monday. We do start to see this area of low pressure a little more formidable here on the European run, a little bit more robust. So this may give areas in Jamaica all the way over towards Central America a little bit more increased shower action because it is showing up, look at this, over towards Nicaragua and Honduras by about Thursday the 6th here. But there it is, a little bit drier in the Cayman Islands and parts of Jamaica as we stretch through the 8th, 9th, and into the 10th here. That front doesn't make it too far to the south here. Now look what's going on over here. This is the area we're going to be watching. Increased moisture flow pattern continuing out of the east-northeast through the 13th and to the 14th here. And then we do have another area of low pressure moving off the coast of Colombia that will be surging moisture up across Central America. And as we stretch through the Western Caribbean into Central America here on our European run, yeah, this takes us all the way through the middle of February. You can see, look at that. At least through the weekend and early next week, the only exceptions for heavy moisture is Central America. And even then, you're not eclipsing more than, say, 100 to 110 millimeters here on average, averaging out to 70 to 90. But look at this here, northeast Jamaica, right around 50 to 60. Most of Jamaica, I know a lot of you said, is pretty dry, especially southern and western Jamaica. That trend in northeastern Jamaica is just going to continue, 100 millimeters plus. Northern coastlines of Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico here, you'll begin upwards of, say, 1 to 2, 3 inches here in eastern Puerto Rico, upwards of 100 millimeters here in Dominican Republic. So looking pretty interesting. And let's get to the eastern Caribbean here. Those easterly trade winds continue to funnel our moisture. One thing to note here is, you can get showers this time of year, but this is kind of interesting because it's always the northern-facing and eastern-facing coastlines here, obviously, and that's where we're going to wring out the moisture here, 70 to as much as 100 millimeters, getting you up towards about 2 to as much as 3.5 inches. And so for our Canadian weather outlook here, it actually starts off a little bit quiet, except, on both coastlines here, we're going to have a little bit of snow shower activity. But here we go. As we stretch through into the first full week of February, look at this. With the exception for a little Alberta Clipper here through Ontario, we're not looking very big until about the 3rd. We start to spin this up towards the Canadian Maritimes. It's going to be rain here in Nova Scotia, snow here in New Brunswick, over to Prince Edward Island and Newfoundland here. Look at this high pressure, though, building in as this system moves out. The next system will be for southern Ontario and Quebec, where we'll see a storm from the United States push some warmer air up, relatively warmer. So it may mix out here in Ottawa, Quebec City. And then look at that. Behind that one, we set us up for a very quiet weather pattern. Maybe a few snow showers here in southern Ontario and Quebec. But for the most part, with the exception for maybe this coastal low trying to spin up here in Nova Scotia, and these systems coming from the United States, southern Ontario and Quebec and the Canadian Maritimes, high pressure is pretty much in control. Liquid equivalent precipitation here across Canada, yeah, it's going to be mostly quiet until we get to February here. Look at that. We got a system that moves across that drops an average of 4 to 13 centimeters of precipitation. Actually, millimeters, I should say. There we go. And then look at in time, any large-scale systems, not until around the 12th or the 13th. Look what starts to happen across southeast Canada. We start to increase the moisture from the southern areas of the United States all the way northward here. We start to get the potential for that pattern flip upwards of 60 to close to 90 millimeters. And if we take a look at our snowfall amounts here in Canada, yeah, it's going to be evenly distributed here through the first week of February, and then look at things really start to ramp up here. We're taking a little break out here in parts of northern and western British Columbia, except southwestern British Columbia, but look at here into southeast Canada. This is where we're going to see snowfall amounts. By the time we get to the 15th here, things really start to change. Upwards of 15 to 40 centimeters of snow, with locally higher here in the Canadian Maritimes. All right, so the Western Pacific here, things start off a little quiet here. You're pretty dry in the Philippines. It's your cold weather season up here in Japan and South Korea, where you'll be getting a system bringing some snow showers, heavy snow, and some rain and wind along the coastlines here. So as we continue through the 2nd into the 3rd, look what's starting to form here south of the Philippines. This is going to be an increased moisture flow pattern as we stretch into that second full week of February. Look what starts to happen here on the 6th, the 7th, and the 8th. We start to see that moisture surge up across the central and eventually the northern Philippines here. And pretty much through the 10th into the 11th, those systems move to the northwest, one towards Vietnam, one towards Taiwan. And then as we stretch through the 14th into the 15th, we do have a drying trend, but look what's forming just to the south of the Philippines. We have some more tropical wave action. And taking a look at the Western Pacific, rainfall amounts here, yeah, we're starting to increase rainfall here through the Philippines. Some areas reaching 300 to 400 millimeters. That's getting dangerous, up to 6 to 12 inches. And let's take a look at our temperatures here. That's going to be the big story. All the cold air is bottled up here into the northern Midwest because look at this. This is very abnormal heading into the last day of January. Almost 60 in southern Ohio, 55 in Pittsburgh, 42 in Cleveland, even holding on to 30s and some 40s here into the Northeast as we stretch on into your Saturday, February 1st. We do get a little bit of a cold shot here in the Northeast behind that system, 30s and even some 20s and upper teens here into parts of northern New England. But look at the heat is on here across Texas into the 70s. As we stretch into Sunday, I want to draw your attention to this up here. This is below zero here in the Dakotas. Let's take a look because we're seeing that warming trend here across Pennsylvania, Ohio, into the upper 40s near 50. In a Monday, we're going to increase this, as I call it, the baroclinic zone here. In the terms of weather, we're looking at the temperature differences here. This is where you can get some pretty big storm action. Now, it's not lining up here next week initially because we see a period of quiet weather. But let's head to Tuesday, February 4th. Look at how this is intensifying. This tells me right here we're going to see some sort of storm form right in the middle here, eventually later next week. And that is what we're going to be watching here because look at this. We're seeing 70s and even some 80s along the Gulf Coast. And we're up here below zero into the single digits and teens here into the northern Midwest. Look at that warm air surging across the east. Extended forecast from our hometown viewers. Binghamton, Scranton, Upper Susquehanna, River Valley, New York, and Pennsylvania. Friday into Friday night, we'll see that rain transitioning to snow showers, but we might make it up into the low to mid 40s by Friday. And a Saturday, we crash down to about the mid 20s. By Saturday night, Sunday morning, down into the single digits. But look at this. We quickly rebound on Sunday into the mid-30s. Chance of snow showers into Monday as well. We do bounce it up towards the mid to high 40s on Monday. To Tuesday, we bounce it back down into the low 30s. So we're going to be this back and forth seesaw action. And before we continue with more weather coverage, check out these amazing, awesome maps from my affiliate here.
I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning, digital, professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code, MeteoMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than TrilogyMaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code.
As always, thank you for joining me for this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. Also, don't forget to join me on Facebook at MeteoMark, also Weather Northeastern, also Twitter at Weather Eastern. Don't forget it's MeteoMark.com, and don't forget, if you want to send me a coffee, there is a link, Super Thanks. You can smash that Super Thanks button or my PayPal link in the description down below. You can buy me a cup of coffee. Thanks everyone. Share that video, subscribe if you haven't, smash that like button.